Grace grabbed the restaurant's back door before it slammed shut and cried, "Please, don't throw that food away." The chef turned around, holding a large bag of untouched food. "Who are you?" Grace stood in the rain, shivering. Her clothes were worn, her shoes were damaged, and she carried a small bag against her chest. "Please," she said softly, "I'm not asking for money. If there is any food left over, I'll take it, even if it's cold." Two kitchen workers laughed. "Look at this," one of them said. "She thinks this is a charity." Grace lowered her eyes. "I just haven't eaten today." The chef, David, looked at her for a moment. Something about her voice made him uncomfortable. "Wait here." He returned with a warm meal. Grace's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you." David smiled. "You're welcome." Grace took the container carefully, then looked directly at him. "One day, you'll understand why I came here." David frowned. "What does that mean?" But Grace had already turned away. The next evening, she returned, and this time, restaurant owner Daniel Carter saw her. Daniel had built his restaurant from nothing. Years of hard work had transformed him from a struggling young man into a successful businessman with several restaurants across the city. But success had changed him. He rarely visited the kitchen anymore. He trusted his managers, reviewed financial reports, and spent most of his time dealing with investors. Recently, however, customers had started complaining. Some said employees were rude. Others claimed poor customers were treated differently. Daniel's managers always had the same explanation. People complain about everything. Daniel had believed them, until he saw Grace. She stood at the back door again. "Please," she said, "do you have any leftover food?" A worker shook his head. "Not again." Grace looked toward the kitchen. "Anything is fine." Daniel stepped forward. "Why do you keep coming here?" Grace turned toward him. "I come because there is food here that would otherwise be thrown away." Daniel frowned. "You know this isn't a shelter." "I know." "Then why don't you go somewhere else?" Grace's eyes lowered. "Because I thought someone here might understand." Daniel felt irritated. "What exactly are you expecting?" "Nothing." She turned around. Daniel looked at the security guard. "Please escort her away." Grace stopped. She looked back at him. "You don't remember me, do you?" Daniel froze. "Have we met?" Grace smiled sadly. "Not recently." Then she walked away. Daniel watched her disappear into the darkness. For some reason, her words stayed in his mind. The following morning, Daniel asked his manager, Marcus, about her. "Who is that woman?" Marcus shrugged. "Just another homeless person." "Do you know her name?" "No." "Find out." Marcus looked confused. "Why?" "Just do it." A few hours later, Marcus returned with information. "Her name is Grace Williams." "And?" "She wasn't always homeless." Daniel looked up. Marcus continued. "She used to own a catering company." Daniel was surprised. "How did she lose it?" "Her business partner reportedly stole money from the company. She couldn't recover from the debt. Eventually, she lost her house." Daniel stared at the report. "Anything else?" Marcus hesitated. "There is something strange." "What?" "She apparently helped several young people before she lost everything." Daniel looked at him. "What kind of help?" "Food, small loans, jobs. She had a reputation for helping people who were struggling." Daniel slowly closed the folder. Something about Grace's story bothered him. That evening, he returned home and opened an old box he hadn't touched in years. Inside were photographs and papers from the years when he was broke. Daniel picked up one photograph. His hands suddenly stopped moving. It showed him at 24, sitting outside a bus station with a small bag beside him. He remembered that night. He had lost his job. He had barely any money. He had nowhere to go. Then a woman had approached him. She had handed him a plate of food. "Eat," she had told him. Daniel remembered her voice. "I'm not looking for charity," he had said. She had smiled. Neither am I. I'm looking for someone who needs a little help. She had given him food and some money. Before leaving, she had told him, "Don't give up. Your situation isn't your identity." Daniel stared at the photograph. Then he whispered one word, "Grace." He immediately returned to the restaurant. He found her sitting beneath a covered walkway nearby. "Grace," she looked up. Daniel approached slowly. "Why didn't you tell me?" Grace stared at him. "So you remember." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "You fed me." Grace smiled. "You were hungry. You gave me money. You needed it. I didn't even thank you properly. You thanked me by surviving." Daniel sat beside her. "Why did you come to my restaurant?" Grace was silent for several seconds. Then she answered, "I wanted to see you." "Why?" "Because I heard you had become successful." Daniel looked down. "And?" "I wanted to know what kind of man you became." Those words hit him harder than any insult. Daniel whispered, "And what did you discover?" Grace looked at him. "I discovered that success can make people forget what hunger feels like." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry." Grace shook her head. "You don't owe me an apology. I almost sent you away. Yes. I didn't recognize you. You weren't supposed to." Daniel looked confused. Grace continued, "If you had recognized me immediately, you might have helped me because you felt indebted. I wanted to know whether you would help a stranger." Daniel couldn't speak. The woman who had once fed him when he had nothing had stood outside his restaurant asking for leftovers, and he had nearly turned her away. But there was another surprise waiting. Daniel asked, "Why are you still helping other people when you're struggling yourself?" Grace opened her small bag. Inside was half a sandwich. "I received this earlier. You haven't eaten it. I ate half. Why is the other half still there?" Grace pointed across the street. "There is a little boy who sleeps there with his mother. I saved it for him." Daniel's heart broke. A woman who had almost nothing was still thinking about someone else. If this story is touching your heart, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. Would you help someone who looked completely different from you if you didn't know their story? Daniel returned to the restaurant the next morning and called his managers together. "We have a problem." Marcus looked nervous. "What kind of problem?" "We've been throwing away food while people are going hungry." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, that's normal restaurant procedure." "Not anymore." Daniel introduced a new program that would safely package untouched surplus food and distribute it to struggling families. Then he asked Grace to lead it. Grace stared at him. "Me? Yes. I don't have a degree. I don't care. I don't have money. I don't care. I've been homeless." Daniel smiled through tears. "That's exactly why I want you." Grace hesitated. "You're not rescuing me, are you?" "No." "Then what are you doing?" "Giving you the opportunity to help people the way you once helped me." Grace finally nodded. "I'll do it." Within weeks, the restaurant changed. Every evening, safe surplus meals were prepared for people who needed them. Grace organized volunteers. Daniel joined her personally. And the employees who had once laughed at Grace now watched her walk through the restaurant with confidence. One evening, Daniel stood beside her as she handed a warm meal to a hungry child. The scene reminded him of the young man he had once been. He turned to Grace. "You saved me!" Grace shook her head. "No, you saved yourself. You gave me the chance. And now you're giving someone else a chance." Daniel smiled. "I almost forgot who I was." Grace looked at him. "Then don't forget again." Daniel nodded. From that day forward, he never allowed his success to become an excuse for ignoring people in need. And Grace never forgot the night she asked a restaurant for leftover food and discovered that the young man she had once fed had finally remembered the most important thing of all. Before ending the story, remember this: you never know what someone is carrying behind their appearance. The person asking you for help today may be the same person who once helped someone else survive. If this story touched your heart, Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who believes kindness should never depend on someone's social status. And comment below, if you were Daniel, would you have recognized grace?